Watch until the end of the video to get the valuable lesson. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to update the latest and best stories.
2 years ago they had been living comfortably. Gaurav worked as an accountant at a small company, and Asha was a kindergarten teacher. But when the company went bankrupt, both of them fell into a spiral of unemployment. Their savings dwindled. Their belongings were sold one by one. Asha developed a stomach bug, which turned into a serious infection because she couldn't afford treatment. But the most painful thing was when they turned to friends and got doors slammed in their faces. The next morning, Gaurav decided to borrow money at all costs. He stopped by Raghu's house, his college friend who had helped him through his hard times. Raghu was now a bank branch manager, living in a villa with an automatic gate. Gaurav stood in the sun for nearly 20 minutes before the maid came out and said, "The boss is busy in meetings all day, he doesn't see strangers." Gaurav clenched his fists, his heart heavy. He didn't blame Raghu. Maybe he really was busy. But maybe he didn't want to get involved with troublesome people. He continued to go to his cousin's house, Jiten, who used to eat at Gaurav's house during his college days. Jiten saw him from afar, but pretended not to recognize him and drove away. The small house on the outskirts of town where Gaurav and his wife, Asha, lived was shrouded in darkness. The darkness came not only from the power outage or the poor housing, but also from the suffocating silence, where Asha's coughs seemed to stretch out time into eternity. Gaurav entered, his clothes dusty, his face covered in despair. He had spent the day looking for work everywhere, and like every day for the past 2 weeks, he had returned empty-handed. On the rickety bamboo bed, Asha groaned with fever. She was so thin that her cheekbones showed through her skin. Her eyes were blurred with pain, but she still managed a weak smile when she saw her husband. Asha whispered, "Have you found a job yet?" Gaurav bowed his head. His heart felt like it was being squeezed. He hated answering her. Hated being helpless. Hated himself. Gaurav replied softly, "No, but tomorrow I will definitely find it." He didn't know if he was reassuring his wife, or reassuring himself. There are days in life that we will never forget. The day you lose all hope. The day you think about giving up. But it is also the day a miracle happens unexpectedly, just because you don't let go. That day Gaurav, an ordinary man with a loving heart, walked into a night darker than any storm. There was no light. There was no hope. And his wife, the only woman he loved, was gasping for her last breath. Today's story is not just about poverty or despair. It is a story about resilience, about compassion, and about how one person can stand up, not just for themselves, but for love. The next morning, Gaurav woke up earlier than ever. He splashed cold water on his face, adjusted his old worn-out shirt. And he said to himself, "Today, whether it's picking up trash or carrying heavy loads, as long as someone needs it, I'll do it." He walked more than 8 kilometers to a large wholesale market outside the city. Hundreds of people gathered, making noise like a broken beehive. Everyone was busy. No one paid attention to someone like him. Then the opportunity came, but not as he expected. A truck just stopped, the driver shouted loudly, "Whoever helps me unload these bags of rice, I'll pay you right away." No one answered. The sun was starting to get hot, everyone avoided him. But not Gaurav. He ran straight over. "I can do it. Any amount is fine." The first bag that landed on his shoulder was heavy as a rock. His back bent, his knees trembling. But he gritted his teeth and lifted it up. The second bag. The third bag. He worked like crazy, eyes only looking ahead. Sweat poured down like a shower, but he did not stop. When the job was finished, the driver, a middle-aged man with a stern look, held out a wad of money. "I have never seen anyone work as fast as you. Take it. There is extra." Gaurav took the money, bowed to thank him, tears streaming down his face. He bought rice, oil, some basic medicine and ran home. Asha was still lying there, gasping for breath. He helped her up, spoonfuls of porridge. When she swallowed the first mouthful, the corners of her mouth lifted. "You found a job?" Her voice was weak but full of hope. "It's not a job, it's an opportunity. And this time I won't miss it." That night, Gaurav did not sleep. He wrote down small goals. Go back to the market tomorrow. Save enough money for 10 days for a better medical examination. And if you're lucky, open something for Asha, where she can stand. He looked at Asha sleeping more peacefully than he had in days. He whispered softly, "I won't let you suffer again. I promise." Gaurav sat on the steps of his house, dazed. It was late at night, and only the distant barking of dogs and the wind whistling through the old tin roof could be heard. Inside, Asha lay motionless, her weak breathing like a knock on fate's door. Gaurav had only a few coins in his pocket, not enough to buy a pill, let alone food. It was not the first time he had faced despair, but this time it seemed different. This time, the woman he loved more than himself was struggling between life and death. And he, a husband, a man, was painfully helpless. If we don't do anything today, Asha might not make it through the night. He jumped up as if electrocuted, ran to each house in the neighborhood, knocking on the door and pleading, "Please help me, just a little medicine or some thin porridge." But most people just opened the door slightly and quickly closed it. A few people looked at him with pity, but everyone had their own troubles. One sighed, handing him a cold bun, "You should pray." When he returned home, he unexpectedly met Mr. Satya, a lonely old man who lived at the end of the alley, famous for being difficult to approach. But that night the old man called him back. "Young man, you are really crazy. But I used to be crazy like that." Gaurav turned around, tears welling up in his eyes. Mr. Satya did not wait for an explanation, pointing to the wooden chair on the porch. "In the past, my wife was also seriously ill. I even sold my only bicycle to buy medicine. But the miracle is not in money, but in something else." Gaurav was surprised. "What is it, sir?" "It is perseverance. When people hit rock bottom, sometimes the universe listens to their cries. But you have to believe and continue to cry." Mr. Satya's words did not give Gaurav medicine or money, but they were like a small match that rekindled a glimmer of hope that was about to die out. In India, a husband and wife team literally built a successful restaurant chain from scratch using just a pushcart. They started with home-cooked food, roti and sabzi, and built a brand around quality and honesty. They now have more than 12 branches across Mumbai and support more than 200 former laborers. Gaurav and Asha don't know the story, but they're unwittingly on a similar path. After 6 months, they've saved enough to rent a small corner in the market as a permanent stall. No more cardboard boxes. They have a wooden sign, a shiny stainless steel counter, and regulars who affectionately call them Rajma and Rajma. "I eat this every morning not just because it tastes good," says one regular, a former fabric shop owner. "It makes me feel at home." That evening, after closing the counter, Asha sat down next to Gaurav and said, "Do you remember the day I was unconscious? I dreamed of a voice telling me, 'Don't die. Because tomorrow will be a miracle.'" Gaurav took her hand. "Tomorrow has not yet come. But today we lived with all our hearts. And tomorrow will be even more miraculous." The next morning, Gaurav did not go to work. He carried the rice pot and the red bean pot, carefully placed in an old cardboard box. There was no car, no counter. He spread a plastic sheet under the tree and placed the rice pot on top. An hour passed, no one stopped. 2 hours, then 3. A man walked up looking puzzled. "What is this?" "Rajma chawal. My wife cooked it. Just cooked it this morning." The man nodded, tasted it, then widened his eyes. "Give me another portion to take home." Within an hour the pot was empty. And so, every day Asha cooked, Gaurav sold. At first it was 10 portions, then 20, then 30. He used all his wages to buy an old cart. He put up a cardboard sign. "Asha rice, cooked with love." People began to remember the taste. Some people came back the second day. Some brought their colleagues the third day. One day, a man finished eating and handed out his business card. "I'm a reporter who writes about real-life startup stories. You and your husband deserve a front-page appearance." The small article was published in a local newspaper. But the effect was unexpected. The next morning, when the rooster crowed in the distance, Gaurav left the house. The sky was not yet light. He was no longer a hopeless man. He was a warrior, armed with determination. At the wholesale market, Gaurav did more than just work as a porter. He learned to observe. Who was selling what? What did people like to eat? Where did the porters eat lunch? And then he discovered something interesting. There was a tiny egg sandwich stall in the corner of the market, crowded every morning. And at noon? There were only a few pots of cold curry and dry rice. No one was really satisfied. That afternoon, when Asha returned with a small bag of rice and some vegetables, she was able to sit up. Although still weak, she resolutely went to the kitchen. "You've worked so hard, at least let me cook you a decent meal." Gaurav sat watching his wife chop onions, add ginger to the red bean stew, and stir the rice. The poor kitchen was ablaze with laughter and aromas. The meal that day, a simple Rajma chawal, was the best of his life. And then an idea struck. "Asha, your dish, if others tasted it they would love it like I love you." Asha blushed. "Come on, it's home cooked." "No. I'm serious. Tomorrow morning I'll cook another pot." I'll take it to the market. One evening when it was already dark, the guard entered their small office. Sir and madam, there is an elderly woman dressed in rags who wants to see Mr. Garov. Garov frowned. Asha left the kitchen and walked out with him. Before them was an unexpected sight. Shekhar's wife, the one who had insulted and humiliated Garov years ago, standing there, her eyes red. I'm sorry, we lost everything. Shekhar had a stroke, he can't speak anymore. The house, the money, everything went up in smoke. I didn't know who to turn to. And then I remembered you. Asha squeezed her husband's hand. Garov felt the past returning, like an unhealed wound being reopened. He remembered that day clearly, the contemptuous look, the harsh words. People like you should die. Garov turned around and walked a few steps. But then Asha spoke. Garov, forgiveness does not mean weakness. Forgiveness is how we free ourselves from the burden. He stood still. We are not the people they used to be. Today we are the ones who have the right to choose to become better. The next day, Garov personally took Shekhar to the best hospital in the area. He paid all the hospital fees, arranged for physical therapy, and hired a private nurse. Asha prepared daily snacks to bring to the hospital. That once cold woman, now quietly wiped her tears, and every time she received the food she whispered, I don't deserve it. Garov replied, no one really deserves kindness. But everyone can change to become better. One day, standing watching the people coming in and out of the store, Asha said, you know, if you had died that day no one would have blamed you. But if you had not chosen to live, all these miracles would not have existed. Garov smiled, his eyes shining. That's right. And now I live not just for myself, but to help those who almost fell like I did. A light drizzle falls on the tin roof as Asha closes her small eatery at the end of the day. Garov is doing her inventory. Ever since the article about them went viral on social media, the number of customers has been increasing. Some have traveled dozens of miles just to taste the legendary Rajma Chawal, a dish that is said to be as good as first love. They are not just cooking. They are creating memories. 6 months later they opened a second branch. This time, Garov hired staff and focused on management. Asha is in charge of the main kitchen, training new chefs. They have set the following principles. Every meal is a part of love. Never use old ingredients. Serve like you would serve family. Within a year they had 4 small eateries, but the quality was still the same as the first day. They were famous not for their size but for their sincerity. One late afternoon when the shop was crowded, an old man walked in with respect. He looked around, then his eyes stopped at Garov. His hands were shaking. Excuse me, are you the owner? I'm the one who hired you to carry goods back then. Do you remember? Garov raised his head, his heart stopped. That man? The rich merchant back then, the one who called him back when he was about to end his life. Garov stepped out from behind the counter, bowed deeply. If it weren't for that day, I probably wouldn't be alive today. The merchant was teary-eyed. No, you lived for yourself. I just accidentally threw down a rope. But you grabbed it. From today on you and your family are our honored guests. Every time you come, please let me serve you with all my gratitude. Maybe you're at a low point in your life. Maybe you've thought about giving up. But remember, the best things often come after the toughest challenges. What? Persist. Believe that even from the depths of despair, you can rise again as Garov did. Never underestimate the power of perseverance. A kind word at the right time can save a life. Forgiveness doesn't make you weak, it's a sign of maturity. True success isn't about money, it's about lifting others up. That night, during a television interview, the host asked, if you had only 10 seconds to say to someone who was in despair, what would you say? Garov looked straight into the camera, his voice warm. Don't die, because the best thing in your life could happen tomorrow. And you'll never know if you give up today. The audience applauded loudly. That night, Asha and Garov sat on the terrace, holding a cup of hot ginger tea, looking at the city sparkling with lights. Asha, have you ever thought, we've come this far? No. I just know, if I let go that day I would have no reason to live. Garov held her hand tightly. I live, because you whispered 2 words, don't die. And now, I want to whisper back to the world, don't give up. A special news report came on the local radio. The story of the Garavs, from poor laborers to famous restaurant owners, is inspiring the whole country. That day, a group of students stopped by the restaurant to do an interview. They asked Garov, do you think if you died in the past, people would remember you? He smiled, his eyes looking far away. Maybe there would be a small news item in the newspaper. Man commits suicide because he is too poor. And then, no one remembers anymore. But life is an opportunity to create something meaningful. One afternoon, when Gaurav was checking out the new branch, he came across a young man sitting on the sidewalk, clutching his stomach because he was hungry. He looked exactly like Gaurav back then, skinny, lifeless, and full of despair. Gaurav stopped, took a loaf of bread and a bottle of water from his pocket. The boy looked up in surprise. "I don't have the money to pay. I was like you once. I thought life had closed all the doors. But it turns out there are still open doors, we just haven't reached them yet." He invited him to the restaurant, introduced him to a part-time cleaning job. Just like that, a person started over with a meal and a word of trust.